Hello friends, welcome to the studio. Today I'd like to share with you some paper sculpture techniques called pop-ups. It's a technique where you take a folded piece of paper and you make strategic cuts in the paper and then reverse your folds to create a structure that is three-dimensional. The pop-up itself can become part of an artwork, or you can use it as the support for an artwork. Today I'm going to show you how to make a box pop-up and a couple of variations, and how to make a V pop-up and a couple of variations as well. Here are some finished pop-ups that I'm going to show you at the end. All of your pop-up structures are going to be created on a fold in a piece of paper. A lot of times you will see pop-ups used in cards because folding the paper in half is a great way to start. There's also an artist named Robert Sabuda who is very famous for making pop-up books, and you might have read one of his books already, or maybe you even have one at home in your library. To create a box pop-up, after you fold your paper, you're going to make two cuts that are perpendicular to the fold. You can space them apart as much or as little as you want. The important thing is they start at the fold and then cut into the layers of paper, and they should be the same length. Now what I'm going to do is fold this cut area of paper as far as I can. And I'm going to do this on both sides. I've opened the paper and you can see the original fold and my two cuts. And see how the cut goes through the center of the paper? So I can now reverse that fold using the creases that I already have in my paper, and there's the box pop-up structure. Once you create this structure, when the pop-up is closed, you'll have a gap here, and so what many artists will do is they'll make a second layer of paper. This is the outer layer, or the cover. Through the magic of video editing, I created a larger pop-up box so that I could show you some variations. You can create a pop-up that comes out of another pop-up. For instance, if I make a cut, two cuts, just like before, through this edge, watch what happens. I'm going to draw them again for you. So two cuts that go away from the folded edge of paper, and they are the same length. Now I'm just cutting through these two layers, this underneath layer and the bigger layer. There it is. I've reversed the folds so that this pop-up box is coming out of this side of the bigger pop-up box. And you can do a layer at the very end of a fold, here and here, You can see how I've cut away along this pre-cut edge. And when I reverse my folds, now I have a pop-up box here at the bottom of the first pop-up box. So you could create an artwork that has depth. It has things close to you and things that are farther away, depending on how you make all of these pop-up boxes. And your pop-up could open in this direction, so it's almost like a series of steps, or it could open from side to side, which I think looks more like a series of buildings. When you press the paper completely flat, everything will go flat very nicely. Let's take a look at an example of a pop-up artwork using this structure. I created a pop-up of a rainbow coming up out of some clouds. I used the structure that you just saw me make in the white paper. There's a big pop-up box in the middle. There's a smaller pop-up box on this side, and there's a smaller pop-up box on the bottom of this side. I haven't glued the cover to the pop-up so I can separate them and show you on the back and show you from the top. The clouds and the rainbow I drew and colored on a separate piece of this brown paper and then cut them out and glued them down using my liquid white glue. You could use a glue stick, you could use tape, single-sided tape or double-sided tape. You want to be careful when you're gluing things down to make sure that all the layers go flat nicely. You can see here where these two clouds are touching. So what I did was I just checked. I just used a little bit of tape to hold everything in place and slowly closed it and watched what happened and made sure that everything was going to go flat and not buckle or fold on top of each other. That's part of the fun and experience and exploring of this technique, is having your idea and trying it out and seeing if it will work. And if it doesn't work, then you study what happened and try to figure out how to fix it. The next pop-up structure I want to show you is the V pop-up. You might be wondering, after I show you, why I didn't show you that one first. A V pop-up can be made with one cut in the paper, but there are lots of different things you can do with the V, and so that's why I saved it for next. In fact, the first kind of V pop-up I'm going to show you doesn't involve having to cut anything at all. After you folded your pop-up paper in half, fold down a corner. It could be the top corner or the bottom corner, but it has to be the corner where the fold is. And I'm going to reverse that fold on both sides. And now I'm going to reverse the entire triangular fold so that it goes inside the folded paper. It is very helpful to make your folds as sharp as possible. Otherwise, the paper might not reverse itself neatly. My folds weren't super sharp and pressed down. Hopefully now it will be a little bit easier. There we go. That did the trick. So here is my V pop-up right here at the top of the paper. And I could put elements on this side or this side of the V to rise up when it is opened. And I have a finished one. This is it. I have a finished one right here to show you. Are you ready? What do you think it's going to be? Let's see if you're right. So there's my corner V pop-up. It's a little bird flying in the air above a cloud. Did you guess I was going to use clouds again? That was a good guess if you did. I'm going to show you a little bit closer. Again, I put the elements that I drew and cut out of other paper together first with tape to see how they would behave when the paper is folding open and closed. Because you can see that the chest of the bird is coming right there in contact with the cloud. Here it is from above. Oh, in fact, I've left one of my pieces of tape there. I forgot to take that off. Here's a variation of the V that involves cutting. You can put your cut anywhere you like as long as it goes away from the fold in the paper. So for this example, I'm going to draw right in the middle. You can make this cut as long as you want. The longer the cut is, the bigger your pop-up is going to be. And you might want a big pop-up, or you might want a smaller pop-up. This time when I make the cut and reverse the fold, I'm going to have that same gap in the paper that we saw with the box pop-up. And so for this one, just like with the box pop-up, I'm going to want to also have a cover sheet for when it's finished. So put the cover sheet over, and here is the V pop-up coming through the paper. Here it is from above. I made an example to share with you. This is a V pop-up coming from inside the paper. What do you think it's going to be? If you're thinking clouds, it's not going to be clouds, but I will give you a hint. I was inspired by the weather recently. It's a vase of flowers. The V pop-up is hidden inside the shape of the flowers. I thought the V pop-up kind of looked like a mouth, and so I thought of different things that have openings in them. And this was one of the first ideas that I had, to turn it into a bouquet of flowers for May Day. The flowers I made separately. I actually glued the petals to the center, to a stem, and to leaves, and then I glued the flowers down inside the pop-up because I thought that would look more like they were coming out of the open mouth of the vase. There's one more variation I want to show you with the V cut, and I don't have a finished one yet. I'm going to make the finished one now from start with you. I have my little example here to remind me of what it's going to be. So again, I'm going to draw a line that goes away from the folded edge. You saw that time I drew my line from here to the folded edge. It doesn't matter as long as this cut is perpendicular to the folded edge. I know that this looks a lot like the last one that I just showed you, but here's the change. I'm going to fold one side over in a triangle, and I'm going to fold the other side over into a triangle as well. See that? Then I'll reverse and fold again. This is to make sure that my creases are nice and sharp. And now I'm going to open up and reverse these creases to make my pop-up structure. It's a little bit tricky because you've got 4 different folds that you're trying to reverse together. Make sure your creases are sharp, that you've really pressed them down, and then take your time as you do this step. And here are the 2 V pop-ups together. Do you see the mouth? Maybe it looks like a beak to you. I am going to add some details now to finish this off. If you're worried about making a mistake and having to start over making your pop-up, you can always make these details on separate pieces of paper and then cut them out and glue them down. Have you ever seen an animal like this? I'm betting you haven't, because it's an animal from my imagination. You might call this animal a monster. I don't think of monsters as always being scary, angry characters. I sometimes think of monsters as being creatures that hide away from us and have their own secret lives. So we don't know very much about them. But if you're lucky enough to meet one or find one, you will find out that they're not scary. I have an idea. So I'm going to use this piece of scrap paper right now. I'm going to draw a thin curved line, and I'm going to color it bright blue. I'm going to cut this out and attach it to my pop-up. What do you think I'm making? Now I need to test how I'm going to attach this to my monster's mouth. I think that'll work. Let's see if it works. Oh, it flips up when his mouth opens. Okay, that was a good discovery. It looks like he's trying to lick his eyeball. Okay. Yes. So now I'm going to take the tape off and attach it permanently with some glue. Just a little bit. There we go. That's perfect. Friends, I'm going to finish coloring and drawing the body of my monster, but now you know how to make all of these pop-up structures, so I want you to go ahead to your studio and pull out your tools and materials, your paper, your coloring tools, your drawing tools, your cutting and gluing tools, and start making your own pop-ups. First, try making all the different structures. I did them really small when I was practicing. And then after you've made them all, decide which one that you like the best and think about how you can turn that into a complete pop-up work of art. It could be a card that you could send to someone in the mail later this week, or it could be a work of art that you leave out closed on a table somewhere for someone to pick up and discover and enjoy. Have fun, my friends. I'll see you next time.